I'll tell you somewhat some things I remember about. My mother told me about Carlton, a 4-year-old brother that died with the flu in 1918. The flu raged clear across the country, and people died by the hundreds. My family, according to my mother, they all had the flu. Carlton was 4 years old, and he was the last to take it. And she said that one morning they all couldn't get up, they're so sick, and she told Carlton to go to the kitchen, get a chair, and get a jar of preserves off of the table, and bring it to the bedside. And that little boy got in a chair, and he got the jar of preserves off of the table. And he brought in there, and they had a little something to eat. Later on in the morning, some neighbors, somebody came in. Then he was the last to take the flu, and he got bad. And according to Dr. E McGee, he believed that Carlton came up with diphtheria along with the flu. And he choked to death. He couldn't get his breath. He got up on his hands and knees in the bed and looked at him to help him, you know, and he couldn't. And he just slowly choked to death, a horrible death. Mike said if he could have been there, he'd have grabbed a pair of scissors or a knife or something, he'd have gone in there in a hurry and fixed him a place to breathe. But in that day, they didn't know what to do, and so the little boy died a horrible death. And none of them could go to the funeral. They took the little body to Farm Hill Cemetery, neighbors, and buried Carlton. And my mother, as long as she lived, she talked about it a lot. It was a horrible experience for any mother or family to go through.
And is there a marker for him today?
No, we can't find a marker out there. I've looked 50 years ago. There's no marker out there.
Do you know who made the casket for his body?
I'm pretty sure that my Grandpa McGee or Uncle Charlie McGee, both of them made a lot of caskets in that day. Grandpa McGee had an old log house with a hallway between the rooms, and they said he'd work sometimes all night long out there with an old lantern making caskets. So many people are dying, and it was kept him busy. And I can remember my Uncle Charlie McGee making caskets. We had a neighbor to pass away. He didn't have any money during the Depression. And my daddy got out and made up about $4.50, as I recall, and Uncle Charlie made the casket for $4.50. And in that day, if a person died one day, the burial almost had to be the next day because of the lack of embalming. You didn't have embalming. And I remember this fellow that made the casket for, that night I went with my daddy, as a little boy, up to his house. A good many men sat around there. And I remember his body began to swell, and they had to nail the lid of the casket on because of the deterioration of his body.
Your grandfather, Hosey McGee, of course, was the first McGee in our lineage to come to Arkansas.
Right.
I believe he also had many children to die very young.
I have forgotten. I did know. It seemed like it was 3. I'm not sure.